Okay, everyone, now that we've discussed George Campbell, let's move on to Hugh Blair. There are a couple titles or words that we associate with Hugh Blair. The first is the father of the elocutionary movement. He really was the first one who wrote sort of the textbook on elocution, which most of the time we put into the category of style and delivery and nothing more. In the lectures that are labeled the bellets, yes, that's how you pronounce that, believe it or not, the bellets, which literally means beautiful letters. He's talking about different kinds of letters here, or works, if you will. Some of you might remember when our college was called the College of Arts and Letters. That was the study of communication, of what we now call English, right? Grammar and rhetoric and writing and speaking. And so the focus on elocution had very little to do with the content. And so one of the practices that people used to do, like after school or whatever, when they came home, my grandmother specifically took elocutionary lessons, which was that you recited speeches that have already been given, let's say, for example, the Gettysburg Address, and you do it in such a way that the elocutionary movements and sound of your voice, rate, pitch, all that stuff, you do on your own to emphasize the parts of the speech that you think should be emphasized. And then elocutionary teachers, they would actually critique you based on, were your movements appropriate to the words that you were using? Literally, there's like this book that has figures of how to stand and what hand gestures to use when you're using certain words. This heavy focus on style and delivery would probably make Peter Ramus very, very happy. That's where rhetoric lives, right? And what Hugh Blair did as the father of this movement, if you will, was he really made sure that rhetoric stayed in that world, in the realm of the aesthetic. Make it look good, make it look pretty. And the first way that he talks about that, or specifically the way that he talks about that, is that both style and delivery and content or reason, if you will, both of them stem from good taste. Now, what is good taste? That is very difficult to define. People think of the modern movement as having these strict rules and sort of a black and white picture and a linear progression, and this is exactly how these things happen. But that's not true, particularly in this case, because taste, well, if you read Hugh Blair, you figured this out, is a matter of taste. So how is it that we can develop or have good taste? And he has some interesting ideas that I think your book doesn't really focus on, but that I've read in other works. And I would like to just tell you about them because I think they're interesting. Probably one of the way that you can be born with good taste is to be born rich. Okay, so Blair really associated being rich with good taste. And I always have a problem with this, because he then says if you aren't born rich and you don't have good taste, then you need to go and rub elbows with the people, so to speak, rub elbows with the people who are rich and learn how to get some good taste, which I find hilarious. And I think one of the reasons why I find it so funny is because when I was reading this stuff, Paris Hilton was really popular, and why is she famous? Because she, well, at the time, it was because she came from money. That was it. And everybody's like, oh, that's hot. I need to do what Paris Hilton is doing. Now, over the past decade, she has really actually had some successful business practices. So I don't want to talk her down. But in her early career, the only reason why people liked her was because they thought they should, because she was rich, which clearly meant she had good taste. Some of us might have disagreed with that. Another example that I'll use here is There's a lot of things that I like about Taylor Swift. For example, I think she's a good role model. I think that some of her songs have a good message. I think that overall she's a great business person, right? Her social media team just must be amazing, right? And she herself is also pretty well presented, right? Unfortunately for me, I guess, I can't stand her voice. I don't like any of her music, really. If Blank Space comes on, I'm like, oh, this again, Shake It Off, oh, this again, which are some of her older works, I know. People have been telling me I really need to listen to her more recent album in order to appreciate her better. And so those are the people I rub elbows with, so I may learn to appreciate her more. We'll have to see. You may love her voice. You may love all of her music. My stepdaughter loves her. She's 15. She's not one of those fanatics that will die if she doesn't get to go see Taylor, but she is a fan of her work. And that's fine. All I ask is that we put some Taylor Swift on in between other songs, and that's how we agree to ride in the car for hours together. So my point in telling you that is that just because Taylor's rich, just because, or that does not mean she has good taste. That's not what that means. What that means is that she has a lot of money. Now, it also means that she's a good business person, that she really knows how to persuade and sell, and therefore it doesn't matter what I think of her taste or what my tastes are for her music or not, because clearly she's doing something right. But that does not mean that her taste in everything is correct. Well, according to Hugh Blair, it would be. According to Hugh Blair, we should be listening to everybody who has money tell us what is good and what is bad art, what is good and what is bad music, and so on. And there are just a lot of people, particularly in the United States, who might have some different tastes than that. For Blair, that means that you can never be a good rhetorician or a great speaker in any way, shape, or form because you don't have the good taste to do it. I find that particularly entertaining. However, even though that's the way I was taught Hugh Blair, and it sort of stopped there, I'm going to tell you that there's a little bit more to Hugh Blair than that. And as your book indicates, if you read this particular chapter, which hopefully you did, he does in fact relate it to content, because content also requires good taste. So as you can see, we're sort of in a vicious cycle here. It's interesting to read Blair's work. He is highly regarded. He is highly regarded for his work on elocution. That is to say, the sort of presentation of a speech, that focus on style and delivery and very little else. He says, however, that just like Cicero did, just like Quintilian did, just like St. Augustine did, just like George Campbell did, I mean, all the way through this, we see that your style and delivery has to be impacted by your audience and by your subject matter. So Blair carries that through here into the modern era. So as we move from the pure aesthetics into the modern era, these two gentlemen that we've talked about today are the reason why we marry those, we sort of bridge the Renaissance, or the Renaissance and so into the modern. We blend the medieval Renaissance Enlightenment period into modern change, which we'll get into next time. But for today, what you need to know is that George Campbell and Hugh Blair, heavy focus on style and delivery. For George Campbell, there's really this focus on types of evidence that we use, and he gives very clear examples of those types of evidence, so you should know that. And then for Hugh Blair, understanding what he means by taste. and what elocution is are the two most important things that you could get out of that reading. So continue reading. I hope you enjoy, and try to enjoy your break too. I know you're on break right now, so maybe you won't watch this until Monday, and that's okay too. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you on the other side of it.